No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of AEW Dynamite for July 3rd, 2024, on the eve of the 4th of July, Independence Day. There's fireworks outside. You might hear it. Let's talk about Dynamite. We had some fireworks on this show coming off AEW's Forbidden Door pay-per-view with New Japan Pro Wrestling and CMLL. This was the fallout from that. Let's get started with the recap. We had Renee Paquette backstage with Daniel Garcia talking about Garcia's match with Will Ospreay for the international title. Garcia called it the most important night of his life. MJF came in, said he's proud of Garcia and wanted to be in Garcia's corner for the main event. And Garcia accepted. Daddy Magic then walked over to MJF and said that he had doubts, but MJF's all right with him, and the two guys shook hands. That was the setup for our main event. Then we had our first match of the evening, which was Bryan Danielson versus Pac in an Owen Hart tournament match. Crowd was into this right from the get-go. They were chanting AEW. They were chanting holy shit. It was a really good match with these two. They had their feeling out process, test of strength. Crowd was chanting, "This is wrestling." Bryan selling great as usual, acting like he had some numbness in his arm. Pac was like a shark that smelled blood. It was Shark Week after all. Is Shark Week. Pac delivered a springboard moonsault and then applied the brutalizer, but Bryan was able to get his foot on the rope. And then after the commercial break, they fought on the outside for a while. Pac then gave Bryan a flying elbow off the barricade, threw Bryan back in the ring. He hit a tombstone. Bryan kicked out of that. Bryan managed to apply a crossface to Pac. Pac got his foot on the rope. Pac then recovered, hit an avalanche brainbuster. Bryan once again kicked out, and then Bryan was able to avoid the Black Arrow. He hit the running knee. He was delayed in making the cover. Pac was able to counter into a brutalizer, but then Bryan countered into a crucifix pin and got the 1-2-3 victory. After the match was over, Doc Samson was in checking on Bryan. So Bryan clearly not 100%, but he's now in the final of the Owen Hart tournament, and he will face a couple of possible names, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Backstage, Willow Nightingale cut a promo hyping up her match, vowing to become a two-time Owen Hart winner. We then had Mark Briscoe in the ring for a promo. He talked about how he almost won the TNT title, but Jack Perry was lucky. He was eating his Lucky Charms, had his horseshoe. Mark then turned his attention to Blood and Guts. He officially declared himself for the Blood and Guts match, which I believe takes place in 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. But then Jack Perry, the new TNT champion, hit Mark Briscoe from behind with the TNT title. Kyle O'Reilly came out there to help out, but then Okada showed up. Okada took out Kyle with the Rainmaker lariat. Then the Young Bucks arrived. They hit the EVP trigger to Briscoe, and then the Acclaimed finally ran down to make the save. I thought Mark Briscoe did a great job with the promo. Really solid promo, nice angle here. No complaints about it. You're setting up Blood and Guts, building up some heat with the Elite. I liked it. Backstage, Toni Storm was giving Mariah May a pep talk for Mariah's upcoming Owen Hart match with Hikaru Shida. That takes place on Rampage, and I think it's safe to say Mariah May will win that match. I would be shocked if she didn't. We had Willow Nightingale versus Kris Statlander. Wait a minute, this was like 8:30. This isn't the usual time for a women's match on Dynamite, but I like that they change it up. I'm definitely a fan and supporter of that idea. They started fighting right off the bat, brawling on the stage. Willow gave Kris Statlander a pounce, and Kris rolled all the way down the ramp. And then Willow continued with her momentum after the break, jumped off the apron with a cannonball, got Statlander back in the ring, and then gave her an avalanche German suplex. She went up to the top, but Kris was able to recover, and she caught Willow, and they traded near falls back and forth. Statlander busted out an F5, but Willow kicked out. And then Stokely Hathaway tried to cheat. He had a chain. He put the chain in the corner. Then he got on the apron. Statlander tried to use the chain, but she missed. Willow rolled up Statlander and got the 1-2-3 victory. I'm not surprised that Willow won when you look at the brackets for the tournament. I think it's pretty safe to say Willow versus Mariah May is going to be the final match of the tournament, heel versus face dynamic. I guess Mariah May is still technically a heel, even though she's been getting cheered. And same thing with Toni Storm. But yeah, I expected Willow to make it to the final. And Statlander, for whatever it's worth, I think she'll be okay from this. You know, she's going to be where she's going to be at this point. But I don't necessarily think that this hurt her. And Willow's the one who's got the momentum right now and building up on trying to win it a second year in a row. Don't think that's going to happen, but Willow does advance now. And we'll see if she can make it to All In. I don't think she will. I think it's going to be Mariah May, but you never know. We had Jay Lethal interviewed backstage, cutting a promo, and he talked about Jeff Jarrett being in the Owen Hart tournament, brought up how this is more than being about wrestling. Jeff Jarrett is honoring one of his best friends, Owen Hart. Jeff Jarrett, definitely the babyface going into the Owen Hart tournament, and they did this video on Collision, really playing up Jarrett's friendship with Owen. More on that in a few moments. We had Britt Baker making her return to Dynamite after coming back at Forbidden Door. She hugged Tony Schiavone. They're tight. They're cool. Crowd was chanting, "Welcome back." And Britt cut a babyface promo, talked about the past, present, and future. She wanted to discuss her past, how 10 months ago there were things going on. She did confirm she was banged up, but there was something else going on. She said that one day she started feeling sick. Something wasn't right, but she convinced herself by looking in the mirror that she was fine. But as it turns out, she had to go to the hospital. She said she was diagnosed with TIA, which was basically where her brain was not getting enough blood, and they were even calling it like a mini stroke. So pretty scary stuff here. But the good news in all this is that she said she is cleared to wrestle again. That is the present. And she brought up how at Forbidden Doors she was worried fans would forget about her, but they welcomed her back with open arms. And then she talked about the future, and that's getting in the ring with Mercedes Moné. And she even took a shot at Mercedes having the CEO piped into the chants, or having the chants piped into the music. And Britt said that she doesn't need to pipe in the only three letters that matter, DMD. And at this point, it cut to the big screen outside of the arena where Mercedes Moné made her entrance. The Elite greeted her, and it was time for the Mercedes Moné Championship celebration, which was advertised. But they were interrupting Britt Baker's TV time, her mic time, And Mercedes came out there getting booed. She was booed heavily here and totally playing into it. So it looks like Mercedes is now a full-blown heel. She was ripping into Britt, saying she knew Britt would try to take her spotlight. The crowd was chanting, "Shut the F up," at Mercedes. And then Britt made her intentions clear. She wants Mercedes Mone at AEW All In 2024 at Wembley Stadium. Britt brought up how she was at the first All In and she signed a contract, first woman to sign with AEW. And Mercedes just pushed Britt, and the crowd was chanting, "You effed up." And Mercedes told Britt to get to the back of the line, but Britt was like, "What line?" And it looks like we got a confirmation that the match is official for AEW All In. Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker should be a hell of a match. I'm looking forward to it. Shout out to Walter, who's in the chat via Facebook. Really good segment here. I like that they're setting this up for All In. We need some big matches, and this is definitely one of the top women's matches that can be booked at this point in time. And everybody did a great job in it. Mercedes Moné in the heel role, as she should be. And, you know, the crowd's loving Britt Baker. Thumbs up for this segment. Very well done. Next up, we had Will Ospreay backstage with Renee Paquette. Don Callis came in, and Ospreay said it wasn't Callis's fault, the loss at Forbidden Door. Ospreay said he doesn't think he's that guy, that ruthless Will Ospreay that Don Callis recruited. And Ospreay said he has a loyalty to Callis for giving him the opportunities, but wanted out of the Don Callis family. And surprisingly, Callis said that while he normally doesn't let people out of deals, he would make an exception and he will do the favor. However, he told Ospreay he might need a favor down the line. So we'll see where that goes. I'm thinking Ospreay might not be quite done with the Don Callis family yet. Definitely feels like there's more to this. I liked it. Good segment here. Jericho came out. Chris Jericho, the Learning Tree. And he said he wasn't booked for the show, so he figured he would do some commentary to get his TV time. And he brought up how Hook stole his finish, and that's one of the cardinal sins in the wrestling business. And Jericho revealed that doesn't work for him. And he called out Taz for being a biased mark. And Jericho said he talked to the Elite, and he said that Taz has been relieved of announcing duties for the rest of the evening. So Jericho took his seat. Taz was escorted out of the building. And then we had a 6-man tag. Hook, Samoa Joe, and Shibata against the Cage of Agony, which is when Brian Cage is teaming up with the Gates of Agony. You guys know what I say about Brian Cage on Dynamite. He's always losing. And, you know, it was a basic tag match. Fairly standard. Bad guys got the upper hand for a while. Then good guys came in, hot tag, things broke down, and Hook's team won with triple submissions. So nice win for them. Then Jericho and company attacked them after the match. Pretty brutal attack here. They wrapped Shibata's arm in a chair, and you had Brian Keith using another chair on Shibata's arm, and then Bill on the outside used a chair on Samoa Joe, and then Chris Jericho took a pair of brass knucks and hit Hook in the face with it, and then Bill chokeslammed Hook through a table. Great angle here. I mean, I know people are kind of sick of Jericho, but I liked the angle. I thought it was well done, building some heat up with Jericho's group. Then we had another match in the Owen Hart tournament, Jeff Jarrett versus the wild card, who turned out to be the returning Hangman Adam Page. Page largely dominated this. Jeff did get in some momentum, but then he was wiped out with a lariat. Adam Page did a fallaway slam. He powerbombed Jarrett on the ring apron, smashed Jarrett's head into the steps. Page definitely showing a lot of aggression. And then after the commercial break, Jarrett managed to start and make a comeback. He gave Page the stroke on the ring apron. Page was barely able to beat the 10 count. And then Jarrett, paying tribute to Owen, hit the enziguri, went for the sharpshooter. Page escaped, hit the deadeye, went for the buckshot, but Jarrett avoided it. Jarrett finally got on the sharpshooter, but Page was able to get to the rope. And then Page regained his momentum, hit the buckshot, and then finished off Jarrett with another deadeye. Now, there was a comment here about Jarrett. I don't think it was flushed down the toilet. Jeff Jarrett was never going to win this tournament. If anything, that was done to justify Jarrett even being in the tournament. And by no means should Jeff Jarrett be winning at this stage of the game. Jarrett should be putting over other people. And Page is your current. Jeff is the past. I have no issues with how this played out. You know, this was Adam Page's return. You're setting him up for Bryan Danielson in the final of the Owen Hart tournament. And I know Page has to go through Jay White, but yeah, Page is winning. Bryan versus Page in the final. And yeah, it should be a hell of a final. You could really argue either match. Another Swerve versus Adam Page match, or Swerve versus Bryan Danielson at All In. Either one is a big match. So I think it was 100% the right call. I enjoyed the match, and you got some sympathy for Jeff Jarrett, but you also at the same time built up some heat for Adam Page. And then backstage, it wasn't enough what happened to Hook. Hook was once again attacked by Jericho's group, the Learning Tree, the Branches. Jericho busted out a fireball, threw a fireball in Hook's face. You know, Jericho, he's a Learning Tree. Let's not forget he's also a wizard. So yeah, they got the fireball in there for good measure. Then we had the Elite talking with Adam Page backstage. They praised him. They talked about how they lifted the suspension and they were hoping for a favor. They need a fifth man for Blood and Guts. And Page was very angry, said he's not their puppet anymore, and he's focused on the Owen. He said he's going to win the Owen, and then he stormed off. So it looks like he's not the guy. And this makes sense to me. Page has a chance to main event All In. Why would he be bothered with the Elite's BS? Even though he's a heel, he's got to focus on winning that title. So made logical sense. No issues. We had our main event of the evening, Will Ospreay versus Daniel Garcia for the International Championship. And MJF, of course, out there with Garcia on the motivating Garcia on the outside of the ring. And at one point, MJF even got in Ospreay's face, but then backed off. After the commercial break, Garcia started to build up some momentum. And it was back and forth. Ospreay was offering a free shot. Garcia started thrusting his pelvis in Ospreay's face, and that just fired up Ospreay. They traded some near falls. Ospreay even busted out the Styles Clash, and Garcia was able to avoid the hidden blade, put on a submission. Garcia then hit the pile driver, but once again, Ospreay kicked out. And at this point, MJF decided that it was a drastic time. Drastic time calls for a drastic measure. He got the Dynamite Diamond ring and handed it over to Garcia. But Garcia decided he wasn't going to cheat. He gave it back to MJF. And then Ospreay quickly took advantage, picked up the win with the hidden blade. Really good match here with these guys. And then afterwards, Ospreay gave Daniel Garcia some props for not cheating. He left the ring, and then MJF told Garcia it was on him. MJF took the blame for it. He raised Garcia's hand. They hugged, and you kind of knew where this was going at this point. And sure enough, MJF kicked him low, gave him the low blow, turning back heel. I mean, full-blown heel. MJF was always a scumbag, but he was our scumbag. Now he's just a scumbag again. MJF brutally attacked Garcia, and MJF was wearing a white tank top. So that should have been the giveaway. When a wrestler wears a white shirt on TV, angle alert, because that's how you get the blood on the shirt for the special effect. And sure enough, Garcia was busted open. MJF hit him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring and then gave him an avalanche tombstone pile driver. Christopher Daniels was out there trying to plead with MJF, and the announcers were just so disgusted. They're like, it was a ruse. MJF was a scumbag all along. And MJF kept the beatdown going. He hit Daddy Magic with the Dynamite Ring. And then finally, and this was maybe like a nitpicking on my part, but Ospreay sure took his time coming back out there. Like, why did he wait so long? Like, as soon as MJF hit him with the ring, Ospreay should have darted back out there. So that was weird to me. I mean, maybe Ospreay had to take a shit or something backstage. I don't know. But yeah, he finally ran out there. The damage had already been done, and MJF fled through the crowd, and he was getting confrontational with the fans. And they brought out a stretcher, and Daniel Garcia was taken out of the arena on a stretcher as Dynamite went off the air. So it was a very heavy angle, and this was a night of AEW doing some big angles. I do have mixed feelings about turning MJF. As Andrew mentioned, it does feel like a complete reset. I guess this means we're not getting the Adam Cole MJF match. They must have just thrown in the towel on that one. Yeah, Undisputed Kingdom's basically dead. I mean, they have been for a while. It's not like it's any new revelation. That group was pretty much DOA. But yeah, it looks like that angle's done. You know, they moved on from that. New direction for MJF. I'm not the biggest fan of Daniel Garcia, but you know they're trying. They are hell bent on getting him over, and I guess they felt like the MJF turn was the way to go, and we're probably going to get MJF versus Ospreay, and they figured, well, MJF is a great heel, and Ospreay is the hottest babyface in the company, so might be time to turn MJF. It just felt very random to me, and you know maybe they're going to have a great explanation for it coming up. I think they were hyping up Collision, that MJF would address his actions. You know, MJF will make it work. He's a great talker. You know, it very much felt like a Ric Flair heel turn. You know, Flair would often turn, sometimes very randomly without any real reasoning for it, but because Ric Flair was Ric Flair, he could do the 180 and be a heel and make it work. And MJF's the same way. So I'm confident that they're going to make this work, that MJF will pull off this turn. I hope this means, as Matthew pointed out here, I hope this means MJF and Ospreay at All In and not Garcia. Like, Garcia should really sell this now for a while. And let's do MJF and Ospreay at Wembley. Like, that's a hot match. I think we need that match for All In. And, you know, they can have Garcia come back and face MJF down the line. So I'm hoping that's where it's going. But it was very well done. And overall, I thought this was the best Dynamite in several months. Probably the best Dynamite since the Tony Khan angle. Overall, great show. Definitely a step up from what AEW has been doing before. You know, they're focused now on selling All In and trying to boost up the ticket sales. I think they stalled at like 40,000 for All In, and there hasn't really been any ticket movement in several months. So I think everybody's hoping now that they're building up some matches for the card that they can sell those tickets. But yeah, I really enjoyed the show this week. Some strong angles to build up All In. I'm looking forward to what's coming up next. So thumbs up. I give the show an A-. Great Dynamite overall, and they're starting to move in the right direction. But the question is, can they keep it going? Like I said, I'm confident that MJF can pull this off. It just did feel like a sudden heel turn. And yeah, they're essentially giving up on the whole Adam Cole storyline. Don't know when Adam Cole's coming back. Don't know when Jamie Hayter's coming back, but Britt's back. That's a positive. Britt and Mercedes, definitely a match worthy of being at All In. And if it's MJF versus Ospreay, I'm digging that. And whoever Swerve faces, whether it's Hangman one more time for the title, or if it's Bryan, should be a great match. And yeah, the All-In card is shaping up nicely. So that's all I got. And before I go, just a quick plug. July 4th, 1 p.m. live stream. We'll be doing our predictions for Money in the Bank and NXT Heatwave. We'll be doing some quick predictions for Heatwave and, of course, the detailed predictions for Money in the Bank. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest news and rumors. Have a great week, everyone. Rest of your week. Enjoy 4th of July. Stay safe out there. Say yes to NoDQ, and I will see you all next time.